SH MonsterArts Movie Monster Series D for Reals. Check out BBTS at the link in the description for all your kaiju needs.
Kaiju, turtles, Dragon Ball, and more. It's Steven's Toy Reviews.
Hey, howdy, hey there, Collector Steven here, and welcome to another SH MonsterArts review. We actually had two releases in April of 2022, and that's actually going to be a doubled up release month, and we've actually had that a few times in the history of the SHMA line. If you actually check out my 10 Years of Destruction documentary, you can see all the months that's happened. Anyway, today we have a review of the SH MonsterArts Jet to Jaguar 2021, or the cool version. Sorry, Showa bros, it's not your day today. It's gonna be us in the Reiwa. This is a part of Reiwa. Anyway, doesn't matter. So here's the deal with this guy over here. We just had Godzilla 2004 release with no accessories, but according to my review, a rather rock solid release. JJ here comes packed to the gills with accessories and even a little humanoid figure, but we got some cracking going on. Yeah, we're going to talk about that in a little bit. Now, I just recorded the articulation section, and it went into detail over this guy here in particular and some things you need to watch out for. So, without any further ado, let's take a look to see whether or not this MSRP of about $105 figure is going to be batting in the collection. Let's hit the ground running. Okay, so in terms of sculpt and paint, this is not going to be the same one that the Movie Monster Series line, which is a completely different division of Bandai entirely. That's going to be the boys division, not the collectors division, Tamashii Nations. It's also going to be the red label of Bandai, not the blue one, which is Bandai Spirits. It's a whole different thing, not the point of this video. But anyway, this is not going to be the same design from the Movie Monster Series lineup. We'll more than likely get an SH MonsterArts of that design at some point down the line. But anyway, I digress. This version here, I believe this one was the small one at one point in the anime, and then he grew big to fight Godzilla Ultima. Spoilers, but I mean, it's been out for what, a year now? Anyway, sculpt and paint, it looks good. Really no quality control issues unless you're really looking up close and personal under a macro lens, and you can see a little bit of issue with the translucent plastic that is used for the eyes. You can see that the paint behind it isn't necessarily as crisp or as clean as it could be, but that is basically a nitpick here. So for Jet Jaguar here, he actually has somewhat of a cream color for the non-red, yellow, or blue paint application, which is relatively crisp as can be considering the source material and the canvas that we have here. So it's not really an issue. Now, Jet Jaguar, a lot of folks were worried about using soft plastic or rubber. I mean, that is what it is on the shoulders and some of the tubes on the elbows. He also does have some soft plastic wiring on his knees. Honestly, I mean, that can degrade and crack over time, but as of right now, it doesn't really seem to be an issue. One thing that to note of mine is, unfortunately, I noticed this after I picked him up off the shelf for my unboxing. He did have a cracked finger from where it looks like he may not have been put in correctly in the package, shipped out of the factory. That's a bummer. Now, also of note, we're going to cover in the articulation section. There have been some folks who have had some cracking issues because he has some very, very hard plastic and adds some pressure points in the joint when not moving necessarily correctly or when holding the big heavy spear. Yeah, that's where that happens. So that's a bit unfortunate. But in terms of the sculpt and the paint, application is fantastic. Trying to cram everything in here real quick because there's nothing really negative to say here. Jet Jaguar looks really good. Just look at that marshmallow, that toasted marshmallow paint application. So yummy. Okay, articulation for JJ here. Well, there are going to be a couple things that we do really need to keep in mind. Reason being is that, well, we got some interesting parts on this dude here. And we've had some reports of breakages. Yeah, which is a little disappointing. Oh, yeah. Got to be mindful of the finger there on mine. Okay, so let's go over the joints and then talk about what we need to be a little worried about. So the head, actually, this is pretty cool on mine, so I can just go ahead and do this, no issues. It plugs into the neck on a double axis or barbell style ball joint. So this is pretty cool. Let's go ahead and pop that in. So, align that correctly. And there we go. So JJ can look up about that far, down about that far, and obviously rock from side to side. No issues. Spin all the way around if you would like. And then that blue portion there, that is going to be a ball joint that plugs into the neck, as you can see there. Pretty cool. Now, here's something that a lot of folks were really worried about with this particular release. We do have rubber parts here at the shoulders, and as you can see, they definitely move and groove, but they work rather well. But they do hide the joints. So the shoulders do feel like they do plug in there on a ball joint, so this way we can rock the arms around and we can swivel as appropriate. Oh, we got a bicep swivel there, which is good. But here's going to be the problem. With this, it's not loose, but it is it is loose. But with this not as firm, stable connection, the hinge joint here, you kind of have to stabilize it and then move it up and down, which that's going to be the range of movement up, and that's going to be the range of movement down. Of course, as you twist the arm, you can get a whole bunch of different poses that way. Just be careful not to really overly stress that, and be careful not to force the joint here because it's rather tight on my particular unit. A lot of folks otherwise have talked about it being tight as well. We do have a bicep swivel, and maybe I can show you this here. Gonna be the fun part. Come on. All right, well, it's not wanting to cooperate with me right now, but I'll show you later. Okay, so elbows. These like to break on people. We get little hairline cracks. Mine doesn't happen to have them yet, but watch this. We can get the elbow to go straight, just like that. Only a single hinge. You show me a double hinge elbow that can do better than that. Boom. Look how fantastic that range of movement is. So it's not a matter of the type of joint, it's how you use it. Also of note, we do have soft rubber plastic here. I guess it's just rubber, soft plastic. Also of note, we do have rubber here, so do keep that in mind. Oh no, it came undone. All you got to do is just line it up and pop it back in, no issues. So we do have a forearm swivel here, which is really cool. Pops off with ease, no big deal. Now that does lead into some rather awkward articulation because the hands, they are on swivels, and that's actually how we're going to be able to swap them. Okay, so they're on pegs, they do swivel around, and they are removable. So when you go to pose JJ, especially when he's going to hold his spear, just something to keep in mind that you can get some interesting angles, but they may be just a little awkward. All right, so torso articulation, nothing in the body here, but moving on down to the waist, this is really cool. So we do have, I'm going to call that the disc here. Swivel from side to side. What seems to be hinge to move forward and back, and then swivel movement all the way around. Really cool. Hips. So they plug in on swivels, but it seems like that's about as far forward and that's about as far back. I'm getting a lot of resistance if I try to go more than that. So I'm not going to push it, and that's effectively all I'm going to say for the articulation forward and back. Hinges to raise and lower the hips, but because they're so bulky there, they don't want to go much farther up than that or down than that. So he can do the splits about that. But what's cool is even though at the connection point at the pelvis, that's as far forward, you notice there's a cut there. Once again, you kind of got to stabilize the hip joint there. Oh, look at that. We get even more movement out of that. So that's cool. Knees. Once again, stabilize the joints. Double hinge. Very good. And we get a swivel just above the knee that allows you to spin it all the way around. Very good. Something to take note of, we do have these plastic wires here. So you don't want to tear them. Not that. Don't want to do that. Feet. Okay. So we do have hinges here that allow you to move the heel back and forth. And then we do have a technical toe hinge and ankle rockers to swivel like that. So, okay, JJ's articulation is really cool. But here's something that the section seemed a bit awkward the way I was describing everything. everything is tight. Yeah, so that may seem like a good thing. Here's the problem. He's made of a harder plastic. So with everything being really tight, you want to handle it with care. Otherwise, you force it and you crack it. Yeah, so, yeah, he's very fragile. This is the first MonsterArts figure I would really go into saying that he is fragile. So when you're moving him around, make sure you use kid gloves, don't force anything, and you should be okay. But with that being said, there are some folks who have opened him up right out of the package and have reported cracked joints. And then I had my little finger incident, so say lovey. Just be careful, and this guy is really well articulated. Okay, this is what I love and hate about figures that come with a lot of accessories, because I love accessories, but at the same time, it makes for a more difficult review. So, what do we have? We have 2 sets of alternate hands. We have the Anguirus spear. We have a jetpack for Jaguar. Yun Arikawa figure? I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. Just don't mind me. We have alternate antenna, and then we have a flight support stand for JJ here, which is pretty cool. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at those alternate antennae. Honestly, I pretty much don't really use these. The reason being is I'm actually going to make a comment on the robot spirits at the end here. I liken this to the Evangelion figures that Bandai has made. Eva Units 1 in particular, I'm going to say the different Unit 1 figures that they've made. For the horn that one has, they've included alternate parts in the event you break yours. Here, they've only included those extended parts, and that's it. They're not even made of rubber, so I don't want to break those. Yeah. That, my friends, is pretty straightforward. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at the Yun Arikawa figure, and kind of like the Jaguar figures that came with the MonsterArts Godzilla Ultima, not necessarily really in scale pertaining to anything, and here we actually do have points of articulation. Unpainted plastic, not really a whole lot to write home about. It's pretty cool to have, depending on how you want to display your Jaguar. He does also come with a little seat, that way you can put it on Jaguar's back, and we are all good to go. Oh, speaking of his back, because this is kind of a moot accessory, he does come with an actual backpack that you can put on there, or take off, or whatever you would like to do. So, it's a display option of your choosing. The Anguirus spear, and we're going to go ahead and work in the alternate hand parts in this section as well. This is going to be the point of contention for a lot of folks, because this appears to be where a quality control issue is sort of not really blended in here. The Anguirus spear is very heavy, and unfortunately, this is not something that I think was really well thought out of. Jaguar is actually very light and uses a very hard, rigid plastic. So when he uses his alternate hand parts that can be doubled as fists, he will be holding the spear. And even looking in the promotional pictures, he can hold it with one arm. Unfortunately, because of the weight, this is a believed cause to cause the cracking, which isn't good. Because of the tight joints, though, I do believe that is just going to be, with any pressure that is undue, it will cause a crack. So please be careful. I actually recommend getting extra support stands, one in particular to hold it up by the spike, so this way it'll be good to go. But in terms of quality for the spike, it actually looks really nice. The paint application is fantastic. Nothing really bad to say here. Now, on that note, for support stands, Jaguar actually has a hole in his bottom for use with a Tamashi stage support system, which they do not include here. However, for the jetpack, he will have that as an option, which we'll take a look at that in a second. But for the alternate hand parts, he is going to have those sort of fists like I made mention. And he's also going to have another set which are pointing. Cool. All right, so the jetpack, which is really cool because it has propellers on it and it looks really, really neat. And you have points of articulation. So we're going to have ball joints where the left and right propeller side plug in. Those can kind of move around, wiggle up and down, and rotate. Very cool. The propellers rotate, and then there are 2 little flaps that move on hinges as well. Now here, I'm just going to go ahead and show you how you move the parts around and you alternate everything on the back, because there are 2 little, I guess you might call them hard point parts on Jaguar's back. Then all you have to do is just pop those off, and you can just go ahead and move everything around modularly, and you should be good to go. Now, I will say that for this 360 spin view action shot here, remember in the articulation section how I said JJ's articulation can be a little wonky? Yeah, that's kind of where it comes here, because it's kind of hard to get him in an action pose unless you get a little creative. So Just something to really keep in mind there. Also, I will say that this extra support stand that I have here for the Anguirus spear, that is actually going to be the real key support here for keeping JJ balanced, because that extra support stand that is used for the jetpack that is holding JJ up, it's not really counterbalancing him being top heavy here, so he'll just fall over. Something to really keep in mind. So yes, you may want to get another support stand. So if you do need support stands or other effect parts, you know I got videos to help you out. If for some reason I forgot to put a card to redirect you, please just head on over to my channel. You know that the videos will be posted there. So I know that was rather quick, so just a little bit of extra filler here in case I need to do some funky editing. And now we'll move on over to a size comparison where I just have the whole kit and caboodle here along with the mini Yun figure, so this way you can see how big everything is going to be here for this size comparison. And as you can see, JJ is about approximately well-sized for a battle with Godzilla Ultima, or if it's going to be the mini version, where he's going to be maybe tussling around with Anguirus. Not necessarily with the Revoltech Anguirus, but nevertheless, Jaguar, size-wise, does look good. So, buy now, skip, or wait for a deal. This review has gone on long enough, so here's what I'm going to say. If you're familiar with the Robot Spirits lineup, then congratulations. This is a Robot Spirit under the SH MonsterArts label. We do unfortunately have quality control issues, most specifically with the cracking in some joints, which is not just limited to 2 or 3 people. However, of note, I have noticed that it is only, from what I've been able to see in the English-speaking collector community so far, I have not yet to see one instance with the overseas community, i.e. Japan, at this point in time. However, I could be mistaken there. With that being said, though, I do think that if you took just a little bit of shock oil in some specific joints where things are a little bit tight, Jaguar would be just fine. Overall, a rather rock-solid purchase. Just be mindful to not crack any joints. Shouldn't have to say that, but
Well, collectors, that brings us to the end of the video today, and I just wanted to take a second to thank you so much for watching. Now, you've heard a lot from me. I'd like to hear a little bit from you. Drop in the comments down below whether or not you liked it, you hated it, or maybe you were somewhere in between. I also want to take an extra second here for a nice, humongous thank you to all the patrons for SDR over the last month who have really helped the channel grow into what it can be today. So to all of you, 2 big thumbs up. Thank you very much. And now the end card should be popping up, which will give you a few clickable links, like maybe to subscribe or head on over to my Patreon, or some short URLs like to my social media or to my Teespring store. There's also a video I hand selected for you, so if you want to watch another STR video, I hand selected some good content for you to watch, so definitely check out that video. Thank you again so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.